Hello everyone, Nina here with Waffle Flower. Let's talk about swatches. We released a few swatching products last month and we call it Ink Swatch 2.0 because we had many swatching products over the years. Swatching is fun for me, and I know it's probably not for everyone. If you haven't done it before, on the Waffle Flower blog, I have a post there sharing a little benefits of why swatching will be helpful in the card making progress. And I do myself benefiting from swatching my supplies. It helps me choosing the right color for my projects and be more confident about how the color will be blending. Swatching definitely helped me making my decisions when I'm making my cards. Back in 2019, we have a collection of swatching products called color combos. And those are made to swatch your inks, your cardstocks, your embossing powder, and even more. And we didn't do a lot of promotion on that collection because we know there's a lot of options in there. And I'm excited to share the simplified system for color swatches is now here. What I simplified is I don't need the tags. What I want is my swatches all in one place, and that's all I needed. And we talk about this. We call this the one-page approach, that you need to see all your colors all at once, and you'll really help decide your colors. And looking at them is inspiring. I don't know whether it makes sense, but just looking at all the colors all together is inspiring to me. Like I want to pair this color with that. I didn't see this color before, and it just all come together. I found deciding on a color for a project has never been easier after I have all my swatches. But for, like I said in my blog post, for a lot of people, just swatch the label and put it on your ink pad for keeping all your ink swatches together. You don't need any special tools to get started on swatching your inks. We have most of the swatch sizes in the product name, so you can easily trim your paper to the size and start swatching. On screen here, we actually have the 1x1 swatch for cardstocks, the 1x1 swatch for inks, the label swatch for inks, and the 1/2 inch swatch for inks. So these are just the ones I prefer to do. One quick tip is when you decided to swatch all your inks or switching to this new system, if you could, do all the swatch sizes you need at once. So you only need to open the ink pad, take the ink and the ink blend. You only need to do the ink pad part once. But you'll have your 1x1s, your label, and 1/2 inch. You'll have more sizes to play with. And later on, you can even take them and put together color combos, like your favorite color combos. I like this green and that blue together and how they match together. Like if you could, make all the sizes at once. The ones you know you'll be using, make all of them at once. When I was making all of these swatches, I think I do at least 2 at a time. Besides the ones I put on display, I also have a folder of a checklist and then I number the swatches. My new system is to number the swatches and keep the checklist for the names. I don't always need the ink names unless I need to replace the ink pad. So I wanted to number the inks so I know which one I need to replace. But for most of the time, all I need is to see the swatches and I can find them on the shelves, and that's where the storage maps comes in. So I know exactly where the ink is and where to put them back. What I'm most excited about the new additions are the stencils. Back in 2019, when we had the color combo set, stenciling was not even in the picture. I don't think Waffle Flower had stencils at the time when the color combos came out. We now have the stencils. You can practice the ink blending while you're swatching the inks. As you can see on all the swatches, even with the 1/2 inch, I was able to get like a gradient from dark to light very easily on all those swatches with the stencils. All of our new swatch stencils have 2 openings. One will kind of just mask the outside of the swatch, and another one will give you a little border. For some reason, with the stencils, you'll get a much smoother blend on your paper, even though like one of the openings doesn't cover the swatches at all. The reason I think is because you know how when we have our brush, we always say dab off the excess ink. So when you're dabbing your brushes on non-porous surface, such as the lid of your ink pad, acetate sheet, or the silicone mat, the media mat we have, the white mats. After you pick up the color, when you dab it on a non-porous surface, you're also helping the ink to distribute evenly on your brush. So dab a few times and then you go in. And with a stencil, it kind of does the same thing, but in a more natural way. Like you don't have to remember you need to dab a few times on some surface. Because when you go, you just need to remember when you start your ink blending, start with your brush on the stencil and then blend in. The way that you press your brush down on the stencil and then push the color inside the opening, it kind of helps distribute the color evenly. It's really hard to get spotchy. I would try to get a little gradation if I could in every stencil openings. It just adds more interest and more depth to color. Stenciling has quickly become my favorite way to color. It's just so much fun to ink blend through the stencil. The new swatching products were released last month, so I already prepared the demo videos and a long blog post with lots of photos to show you the whole system. We call it the Ink Swatch 2.0 and the one-page approach, whatever you want to call it. It's just the idea of seeing all your colors all together. It's really fun. I already shared a lot about how to use the products themselves, so my video today is more focused on the tips and tricks and some of the FAQs we get from our customers. One of the questions people ask a lot is, what inks do you use with your stencils? I personally use distress ink, but I think if you have a choice, use a dye ink will be better than a pigment ink. It's just that on the market today, with your stencils, you will usually have a brush to pick up your color from your ink pad and then apply it through your stencil or just directly on paper. So for all those brushes, dye inks works better with those brushes. If you use a pigment ink or a hybrid, like Distress Oxide is the hybrid ink, it's a mix of dye and pigment. So for those ink pads that has more pigment in them, the brushes won't work as well. You want to use a foam pen or a dauber for pigment inks. But for all the brushes, the dye inks definitely works better. Dye inks are see-through, so it's really amazing to see how colors overlap. And we actually have a whole line of products called overlapping and just play with how the colors change where they meet. It's really amazing when you overlap the colors. And that's one of the reasons I like the 2x2 swatches. There's enough room for you to kind of blend multiple colors towards the middle and see how they interact, how they overlay. The brush you use to apply the ink will give you different results, and how much pressure you use with your brushes will also give you different results. When you swatch your inks, you have a very good feeling of how this ink will blend from dark to light, like how quickly it goes from dark to light, like whether you can have a middle shade with its same ink color, how many different shades you could control and have it. You don't need multiple ink pads to do all the layers for the stencil, because you can usually get 2 to 3 colors. If your ink pad is a medium shade, you can adjust your pressure and get light, medium to dark shade using just one ink pad. At least that is what I feel like with the distress inks. I'm one of those people, I have to figure out how I clean something before I will dive into doing it. So, knowing how easy distress inks will wash off the stencils really helps me into doing it more. I just take the stencil under running water and all the excess ink will be washed away. Super easy to clean. That's one of the reasons I like distress ink. I know a lot of people will clean their stencils with alcohol, rubbing alcohol. I think from 30%, 70%, 90%, you can choose it. But I think as long as you have like 30% in it, it will dry fairly quick. That you can just spray some of the rubbing alcohol on your stencil and just wipe it clean with a paper towel or a dry cloth. Another question people ask a lot is, when you do your swatching, do you need to wash your brushes every time? No. The answer is no. And I will do my best to try to avoid washing my brushes. One solution is to use one brush for each color family. We have a 10 color rainbow brush set, and I'll keep all the purples with the purple brush and all the pinks with the pink brush, and the red and the orange and yellow, all that. All you needed to do is to swipe your brush on some paper towel, and that will take out all the excess inks. And because they're in the same color family, you can barely tell the difference. We also just completed our brush collection with the new background blenders this month, so don't forget to check them out. So we talked about this before. Grid mats are a game changer. It changed how we design our products, and I think it changed how I stencil forever. I would do everything I could to try to stencil a shape over a grid mat rather than taping it down. So with the grid mat, which is made from photopolymer, it helps hold down the stencil in the paper. So all I need to do is to ink blend. I can't imagine how I was able to do stenciling without them before. One tip that really helped me getting to like color blending is when I know a little bit goes a long way. So you try to apply a light layer first and then kind of build up the colors rather than try to have a very heavy hand and just get the opening foot of the same color in at one time. But some of the stencil designs, you actually want to have all that intense color all at once because that's just how the design is made. But I found I always prefer those ones that give me a little bit blending freedom, such as the birdie duo and the cardinal duo. When you ink blend it, they do look very different. That's just part of the fun, how you can use the same supplies but achieve very different results. And that's what ink blending has been for me. It's just really fun. I'm still practicing, and after swatching out all these colors, I feel I know exactly what ink I want when I try to have that gradation. When the stencil opening is small, it's harder to get a gradient look. So you need to know how to control your brush, how little pressure you use over your brush to get a very light color with this ink and then darken it. It could be how juicy your ink pad is. So get to know your ink pad is important. If your ink gets a little dry, you might actually get more variation in colors. But you have to do your swatches yourself because every ink pad is different. Even though it's the same color, your ink pad could be drier, your ink pad could be juicier, so that the ink might be very intense and you need to know that you need to dab off more before you can get a very light color. Or like if your ink is a little dry, you need to pick up more color more times. Swatching is like getting to know what you already have. I did distress inks on 1 by 1, 1 by ½ an inch, and then the label size. And every time I learn something about my ink pads, some of them are too dry, I need to replace. But I loved the color blending factor of it. I won't be covering all the details that I covered in my blog post. The 1 by 1 punches I use for cardstock are no longer available. And I found two that works the same, and they're both available on Amazon. My favorite is a Marvy one that it actually has a cover on the back. So the paper doesn't go everywhere when you try to punch it out. On the packaging for this Marvel punch, it says 1.5 inch. That's because they measure the square diagonally and says it's 1.5 inch, but it's actually a 1 inch by 1 inch square. Marvel color coded their punches, so if your punch is yellow, it should work. Again, I have a blog post showing you how to use all of them. And I will just show you something that's kind of harder to show in photos. My new system is to number the swatches, put a magnet on the back, and put them on a metal display. The display I linked to has a T shape that stands straight up, and then a L shape, so kind of lean backwards a little, if you can see. But this L shape has a full metal background, so it's super easy to set up. And then the T shape doesn't have a metal background. It's actually open. It only has this frame that's metal. So I bought a metal sheet to put in between, and so I can still use my magnets on them. But in your local store on Amazon, I'm sure there are multiple options for you. Just find the metal display. Kind of the keyword would be metal display. So you can find something that will work in your space. We actually invited some of our talented friends to show us how they will use these swatches. I haven't seen any of their videos, but I know they will be good because they're all clever. We'll link all the videos as soon as they come up in the video description below, and we'll also have a playlist that will link below. Get to know your supplies. It's a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you again soon.